Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, let's talk about Florida fishing during the winter time, which I'm also going to include pre-spawn in this. I got some recent questions from some viewers wanting to know more about Florida bass fishing and what lures to throw this time of year. So since I've got a lot of experience down in Florida, I love Florida fishing, and I feel like I understand the fishing down in Florida very well. I figured I'd just do a real quick video on it and show you guys some of my favorite techniques for this time of year. And really, we're going to split it into two separate categories: fast moving baits and baits that you can kind of pick things apart. And so these are four different baits that I'm definitely 100% going to have tied on in Florida. Now, keep in mind, as is the case with everything in fishing, you know, this is not like the hard set rule. Like, these are not the only baits that are going to work during the wintertime down in Florida. But these are, if I had to pick four baits that I absolutely trust down in Florida on a variety of different lakes, it would be these. So take it for what it's worth, but definitely, you know, expand on this and try different things. You never know what's going to end up working for you. All right, so let's start with reaction style baits because, you know, when it comes to Florida fishing, one of the hardest things is finding the areas that are holding the majority of the fish. So you want to cover water very quickly to find those areas. And sometimes it turns out that reaction baits are the most effective way to catch those fish once you find them. Sometimes you have to slow down. But let's start with one of my absolute favorite reaction baits down in Florida. This is kind of an original reaction bait that I started fishing in Florida because I heard so much about it and learned very quickly it's one of the most efficient and effective tools for Florida bass, and that is the lipless crankbait. Now, when it comes to lipless crankbaits, I really don't have like one brand or even two or three brands that I trust or models of lipless crankbaits. I have a bunch. Like, I really sift through like a dozen different styles and brands. And so really I just experiment on the day, depending on the conditions and all that sort of stuff. But there's really two different colors that I like to fish down in Florida. Actually, three, if you include this one. So for Florida fishing, really, it's hard to beat these two different colors. If I can get them untangled, I probably should have done this before I started the video. There we go. All right, so you've got this one right here, a blue back with like chrome or silver sides. This is going to be one killer color. This is a really good one for clear water, you know, where you don't have a ton of tannic stain in there, which most Florida lakes have a heavy, dark, coffee-like tannic stain to it, but some of them don't. And even in those tannic stain waters, you can catch them on that color pretty well, but I like it for clearer water. But then the other color pattern, and this is one that's kind of beat up, if I can get that out. Come on, man. There we go. No, that's not a good example. There we go. All right, so gold with black back. That's another really good lipless crankbait color. This one is going to be probably my choice, and that doesn't even look like gold with black back because it's so beat up. This side does, though, a little bit. Gold does really good in that tannic stain water. I think it shows up very well and imitates the bait fish in that tannic stain water, because when any fish species is in that dark tannic stain water, they tend to have a pigmentation that is a little bit, you know, more of that yellowish gold. Even the shad kind of get that little bit of goldish sheen to them in those type of waters. So those are my two favorite colors that I like to fish down in Florida. But there's also some really good crankbait colors that kind of blend the two. So this one right here stands out. This is kind of an off-brand lipless crankbait. It's not, it looks like the Spro Uruku shad, but it's kind of a copy as far as the design. But this color, you got the blue back, a little bit of silver, a little bit of gold. This is a pretty killer color down in Florida because it blends all of them. So if you're looking for one color that kind of does it all, something like that is going to do it. I think Spro makes a similar color in the Roku Shad, but yeah, those are the colors that I like to throw with lipless crankbaits down in Florida. And really where the lipless crankbait excels is anytime you've got fairly open water, but still have quite a bit of you know, submergent grass. So when the submergent grass is real sparse, like it starts to get during the wintertime, that's when you want to throw the lipless crankbait. I'll throw it in open water, like open flats. It's really good for covering water, but also think about boat lanes. So those lanes in the grass that boats chop up over time, they create, you know, those nice open areas. Lipless crankbait is really good for fishing in those boat lanes on those grass flats. So those are all scenarios that I like to throw lipless crankbaits. Sometimes it really pays off to yo-yo these baits down in Florida. You just really have to experiment with the retrieve. Sometimes it's just a straight retrieve. Sometimes you're ripping it out of the grass. Sometimes you're yo-yoing it. There's a lot of things that you can do with this bait. And as far as how I rig it, I'm going to be using a 7.3 medium heavy Versa Series rod from Fitzgerald, a 7.2 to 1 gear ratio VLD10. I like to have either 17, well, really 15 to 20 pound fluorocarbon. I usually use just Seaguar Red Label. Again, you know, I didn't mention this earlier, but I'm watching the baby today, so I don't have time to rig all of these up and show you the exact tackle. But I am wanting to mention all of the tackle that I use, and in the description, I'm going to put the affiliate links to the tackle that I talk about in this video that will get you 10% off of your order with 44 tackle. So make sure you check those out. But I'm just going to breeze through the tackle. Another key is changing out your hooks with some sharp hooks. This is the TBL 930s from Hayabusa. That's really important. But that does it for my first, you know, bait that I like to throw down in Florida. Now, this next one should not be, you know, a surprise to you guys. You know how much I love fishing a chatterbait. And the second one has to be a chatterbait. Chatterbait is an excellent choice, excellent, search bait for Florida fishing during the wintertime and the pre-spawn. And there's not much else to say. It's just really, really good. And you can fish it in thicker, denser grass than you can the lipless crankbait. You can be more efficient with it. Generally speaking, I like to fish the chatterbait when the water is dirtier than I do with the lipless crankbait. Both will work in clear and dirty water situations, but I really tend to focus on the chatterbait when the water's dirtier and also when the grass is denser and I want something that can be more efficiently fished through that vegetation. This right here is a good color combination. This is the jackhammer and the bruised green pumpkin. So it's like black and blue and green pumpkin mixed together. Black and blue is gonna work really good. Green pumpkin, any kind of bluegill imitation. Also, there's like the gold shiner. That is a really good color. So something that has a lot of gold in it is gonna work very well as well. So, you know, just experiment with the different colors depending on what type of bait fish you're trying to imitate. So chatterbait, pretty much same tackle that I use for the lipless crankbait, I will use for the chatterbait. So the 7.3 medium heavy Versa Series rod, I'll use the 7.2 to 1 gear ratio VLD10, and then I will also use Red Label. You know, really any of the Seaguar fluorocarbons I can use and do really well, but Red Label is good. I like 17 or 20 pound test, pretty much standard. All right, so the next bait, you know, I think I mentioned that there was 4 baits. There's actually 5 baits that I want to talk about. The next one is a soft plastic bait that those days that you end up getting a little bit more warmth and those fish start flooding the flats, because Florida bass, they love to react to the sun. So whatever temperature, you know, if you get a little bit of sun that starts increasing the temperature on the shallow grass flats, those bass will start roaming like crazy. So if you get like an unseasonably warm day, calm, sunny conditions, and the shallows start to warm up, that is one of the best scenarios that I dream about in Florida during the wintertime. And the best bait that you could possibly throw in that scenario, especially for covering water, but also to get some ferocious strikes from big fish, is a swimming worm. This is a worm that I helped Z-Man design. It's called the Turbo FattyZ. This bait right here, you're going to be fishing it on pretty heavy tackle and just putting your trolling motor on high and making fan casts across grass flats through Kissimmee grass, through pads, whatever type of emergent vegetation you have on a grass flat. You're just trying to cover water. And once you start getting bit, that's when you can kind of slow down and pick an area apart a little bit more. You can either use this or another bait that we're going to be talking about. But this is going to be one of the most efficient, dense vegetation lures that you have. And really, it's so simple to fish. I'm going to be fishing it on a Texas rig. I use a 4 or 5/0 Hayabusa 959 hook. I peg a 3/16 ounce weight or something around there, depending on how I want this bait to be presented. But 3/16 is kind of the standard. And I'm going to be fishing this on 50-pound TactX Braid. And the rod that I'm going to use is a Okeechobee rod from Fitzgerald. It's a 7.6 heavy action, pretty much a flipping stick. And then I'm going to be fishing on a 7.2 to 1 gear ratio VLD10 again. And you're just making fan casts, covering water, and man, you would not believe how ferocious the bites can get. Sometimes I'm buzzing it on the surface, and sometimes I'm slow rolling it below the surface. Both can be very good. Just make sure that you watch out for wakes. Just be very cognizant of potential fish coming up behind this bait to attack it. So very, very easy bait to fish and a very effective bait. It's my number one, soft plastic, which is made of Elastec, so it's not technically soft plastic, but it's my number one bait for just covering water in emergent vegetation. All right, so let's slow down a little bit. Say you've already found the area that you're going to catch fish in. You found the good population of fish within this general area. Then you need to start slowing down. So to me, during the wintertime, really it's all about flipping and pitching. If the fish are in dense cover, which they usually are during the wintertime, they don't want to have to constantly move their fins to stay, upright in the water. So I feel like these fish, when it gets cold and their metabolism slowed down, if the sun's not out and it's not warming the shallows, the fish just get in real dense cover and they like to sit there and just kind of be stationary. So I'm going to be flipping and pitching. And if I'm flipping and pitching around sparse cover, I'm not like punching into dense grass mats, I'm going to be pitching something like this, a beaver style, flipping bait. This is the Palmetto BugZ. It's by far my favorite flipping bait of all time. And I never thought I'd say that because at first I hated the design of it. I thought it looked stupid, honestly, when I first saw it. I didn't think that it would glide as good as some of the other baits on the market, but I've been proven wrong about this bait. This bait, I've made a ton of money on it, and I catch a ton of fish on it, and it's the number one flipping bait that I reach for all year round. But I like this bait during the winter and pre-spawn because the fish want something that is a little bit more subtle. It doesn't really have a lot of action to it, and this fits the bill. So I'm going to be pitching this around, sparse, reeds and emergent grass, things like that. Maybe a dock post or two. And I'm just going to be fishing probably a 1/4 ounce to like a 1/2 ounce Texas rig weight pegged to the line. Pretty much the same tackle that I talked about with the Turbo FattyZ is what we're going to be fishing this with, except for I'm going to replace the Okeechobee rod with the all-purpose series flipping stick, which I think is the best one for sparse vegetation flipping. So 7.6 heavy action flipping rod. But that's a really good one for fishing, you know, light to moderate cover. But if I'm gonna, if I've got, you know, matted grass, it's the biggest cold front of the year has gone through. You know, the fish are real inactive. I want to go in after those fish in the dense vegetation that is around on all the Florida lakes. And so punching is the way to do that. Heavy tackle, you know, big braided line, that sort of thing. And this bait right here is a new bait. It's called the Gremlin from Z-Man. And, you know, even though it's a bait that really is you know, kind of designed for more of the light and moderate flipping and pitching, it also has all the design qualities I like for the optimal punching bait. And the only thing that it doesn't make this the perfect punching bait is these little thin curl tails on the bottom here. So all you have to do with this, the cool thing about this bait is you just trim those off, and now you have the perfect compact punching bait that can go through cover, and it looks like it was made for punching techniques. So the Gremlins, with a little bit of a tweak, really good punching bait. Using a 1 ounce to 2 ounce tungsten weight pegged to your line or bobber stop to your line. 65-pound smackdown is what I'm going to be throwing with this. I use a Titan HD punching rod, and also a 7.2 to 1 gear ratio VLD10. So pretty much all the baits that I talked about are that 7.2 to 1 gear ratio VLD10. But this is going to be the bait that I'm going out on those grass flats, fishing those junk mats in the emergent grass, all those really dense type of vegetated areas is where I'm going to be punching this. So you can't really just go around punching everything to find the fish. So you have to use the reaction baits first. Once you find the areas that just look really good and you've got some bites, then you can kind of slow down with something like this or the Palmetto bugs. But those are the baits that I love to fish this time of year. If I could just fish these 5 baits in Florida, I'd be a happy man, and I'd be putting fish in the boat. I can pretty much guarantee it. All the way from, you know, late November through February, these are all going to play big time any day in Florida. But anyways, guys, thanks for the questions. And if anybody else has any questions, drop a comment below, and also make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'm going to see you out on the water. Trust the process.